Hey there, and welcome to the Totally Fierce Crochet channel. My name's Thomas, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make such a beautiful 3D sunflower granny square. Now, it's been a while since I made my last 3D granny square tutorial, which was for the rose. And since it is summer, we're in the beginning of July. And what flower stands more for summer than the sunflower, right? It's my favorite flower from all of the beautiful flowers, and I am so obsessed with how this 3D sunflower looks. It's huge, it's pretty, just like a real one. The overall thing is more like a work of art, to be honest. And I will probably also frame it because I think it's just beyond beautiful. So this tutorial is worked in one go from the center to the leaves to the square. So you also get to know how to go from a circle into the square. And of course, if you don't like to make a sunflower, you can always alternate making the center or the leaves in a different color. For example, a beautiful daisy with white leaves and a yellow center with that same beautiful 3D effect. Or I recently also finished this version. I don't even know what the flower is, but it's still pretty. And it has like those two-colored pink leaves and a black center. And don't they all look just so beautiful? But of course, for this tutorial, I'm going to focus on the sunflower. So let's start. What you need to make such a beautiful 3D sunflower granny square is of course the yarn. As I mentioned before, we start in the center and I chose this brown color. Then for the leaves, a yellow. And then for the blues underneath, I started with a lighter blue, and then for the outer part, a darker blue. Again, also for those, for the squarish part of the granny square, you can always use different colors, and you can always make a few of the granny squares and connect them to a blanket, to a bag, to whatever. You just would have to be a little bit careful because we do need a lot of yarn to make those chunky leaves here. So the overall granny square gets a bit heavier than a regular granny square, of course. So you might want to like block it or stiff the fabric to not move that much. Overall, it's quite flat. This is how the back side looks like. It's equally pretty, to be honest. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use cotton yarn. Of course, it's a mix of rainbow cotton and French cotton from Hobby. And it says in the back that we would need a crochet hook 4 to 4.5 millimeters. And of course, I'm going to use a 4 millimeter crochet hook. Then, of course, you would need some yarn needles to sew in those ends and the scissors, and we're good to go. So let's start with the center. And for the center, we are going to start with a magic ring. If you know my video about how to easily make the magic ring, and it works every time, here's again how I do so. I wrap the yarn around my fingers like this and do as if I would do a slip knot, and I'm not closing it. I'm placing my finger right into that hole. I'm taking my yarn end and put it right in there like this. Then I can close my slip knot, pull it tight. Here you can decrease the size of the ring if it got too big. And here we go. We have our loop to work our stitches in. Okay, so for the center, we are going to need 15 double crochets. The first one is, of course, not a chain free, as most people would do it or teach you that. I'm going to make the first one as a fake double crochet, and it goes as follows. You go in the magic ring, grab the yarn, pull it through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. Now you basically made a single crochet. Then you go back into that front bar, grab the yarn, pull it through, pull everything a bit up, yarn over and pull through, and you just made your first fake double crochet. And as I mentioned before, we need 15 to start this or to finish this first round. So we are going to make 14 more double crochets all into that magic ring. So you yarn over, go in the ring, grab the yarn, pull it through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and here we go. 13 more, all into that magic ring. Here we go, 15 double crochets in the magic ring, which we can now close by pulling on the yarn end. You can pull it tight, and then we can move on directly to round number 2. And round number 2 starts a bit differently because we move our loop out a bit like this. Then we release it from the hook, and then we go right into the top of our fake double crochet like this. And then we take the loop and we are going to pull that loop through the top of our fake double crochet, just like this. And from there we can continue making these puff stitches that I made around. And to do that, it's quite easy. You yarn over, hold the yarn with your finger, then go back into that same stitch, the top of our fake double crochet, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through, pull everything up a little bit so you have the tension. You now have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over again, go in that same stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, pull everything up. Now you have 5. 1 more, yarn over, go into that same stitch, grab the yarn, pull everything up, and now we can finish our puff stitch. You now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on the hook. You yarn over, and then you pull through all of the loops on your hook. Yarn over again, close the puff stitch like this, and this was basically it. And we can move on to the second one. We're going to make puff stitches in each of our 15 stitches from the previous round, so 14 more to go. So you yarn over, go into that next stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through. Now you also have like the height set. Make sure that the height is always the same. Yarn over again, go in that stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 7 loops on your hook, and once you have the 7, yarn over and pull through all of the loops that you have on your hook and close it with basically a slip stitch. I'll show you one more. Yarn over, go in the next stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, pull everything up, yarn over, pull it through, pull it up, 5 loops, yarn over, pull it through, 7 loops on your hook, yarn over one more time, pull it through all the loops on your hook, and slip stitch to close the puff stitch. And we make this until we have 15, and with that, round number 2 is done. And here we go. Now I have made 15 puff stitches all around. Now all we have to do is to connect them with the rest. And again, I'm going to pull out the loop a little bit. And then I'm going to go in that back loop only. Pull the loop back on my hook and yarn it through. And then I'm going to put it up a little bit because now we can already start with round number 3. And round number 3 is one full round of half double crochets. And we are going to increase every second half double crochet. And with the puff stitches, it's quite easy because in between the puff stitches, there's a little bit of space right here. And whenever we have a space, we make 2 half double crochets into that space. And the first double crochet we always make in the top of our puff stitches. That's also why I went only through the back loop here, because now I'm going to leave the yarn a bit pulled out here. And then I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to go through both of the loops in the top stitch of my puff stitch to have the 3 loops, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 of them to have my first half double crochet. And then we arrive at our first space here, and in here we make 2 half double crochets. And the half double crochet is made pretty similar to the double crochets. You yarn over, go in the space or in the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and then pull through all 3 of them. Now we have our next puff stitch, so we are going to make a half double crochet in the top. It can be a bit tight here and there, but it works. And then we have our next space in between the puff stitches, so we make 2 half double crochets in there, like this, and then 1 half double crochet again in the top of the next puff stitch. And like that you go along to already finish the brown color, and I'll meet you once we're back here. Okay, so now you should have 45 stitches all around. So as a recap, we started with 15 double crochets in the center, then we made 15 puff stitches around. Each puff stitch stands for basically a stitch count of 2, so we had 30. And then by increasing always the second one or the space in between the puff stitches, we now have 45 stitches all around. And what we can do now to finish it is to cut the yarn, because we don't need the brown anymore. And what I love to do for this tutorial, and also to keep it as clean as possible, is that I'm going to do as if it's a finished project. So I'm going to pull my yarn through like this. I'm going to take my yarn needle, and then I'm going to skip the first stitch right here, and then I go directly into the stitch after that and insert my yarn needle from the front to the back. And once I have that, I'm going to go into the top of my last stitch here. To make an invisible finish. And then I'm just going to place it, or place the yarn end just in there to hide it. You don't have to go far. Like this, and then we can cut our yarn ends. I know some people are annoyed by taking care of the yarn ends when your work isn't finished, but trust me, it's so much easier when one part is done. And we can move on then with our leaves, the most interesting part, basically, of this tutorial. So we are going to take our yellow yarn, and now what I want you to do is to only work in those back loops. So when we take a look at that last round that we made, here's the top of our half double crochets, and you always have 2 stitches right here that give like our typical V's, and I want to keep them because I think that it looks quite pretty when they then come to the front like they do it here. And to do that, we are not going to work in those 2 loops right here, but there's a third one that's right behind it. It's right here. Here it is. These are the loops that we want to work in. Once you made a few, everything flaps more towards to the front, and then we can always easily get into those back loops. I have no idea how I should call them, but they are all here. So ignore the pretty ones here. We are going to work in those back ones here, and for that you take your hook and just somewhere go in there to grab one of those back loops. Take the new color, the yellow, pull the yellow through, take the yarn end and push it more or less to the front, because we are going to yarn over it or work over it, and then we just make a slip stitch to close it. And now we want to make 45 single crochets with the yellow yarn all around, no increases. Our stitch count after that round is still 45. and we are going to make our first single crochet into that same loop where we just connected our yarn in. So you go in there, 2 loops on your hook, make sure that your yarn end is right in between so we can already incorporate it, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and now we can continue with the next ones. So watch out for that back loop, it's right here, and make a single crochet all around. Here's the next one. And you can see how those typical top loops of the half double crochet come to the front, which is exactly what I want. And we do this all the way across before we can then start with our first petal. If your yarn end came to an end during working it, just leave it there or cut it off. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And I'll meet you once you made your 45 single crochets. Make sure to count them so you have the right stitch count for the leaves. So here we go, 45 single crochets all around. It looks very pretty. You see those V's in the front, which is exactly what I wanted. And now we can continue making the leaves. And again, the leaves are worked in one go, which can be quite challenging when you're a beginner, but it's actually quite easy to do. And for the leaves, we are only going to work in the front loops. So in those front loops only. The back loops we are going to need for the round after that. So we only work in the front loops throughout. And now let's start with the leaves, or the first leaf. And for that we are going, as I mentioned before, in the front loop only. Grab the yarn and just slip stitch through it. So we are here. And each leaf is basically 3 stitches. So we do the leaves with a mix of different stitches, and they are all foundation stitches. If that doesn't make any sense for you, don't worry. I'm going to show you how to do it. So to make the leaf, you yarn over, you go into that next stitch in the front bar only, grab the yarn, pull it through. You now have 3 loops on your hook, and what we are going to do is basically a foundation half double crochet. So you yarn over and go through just the very first loop, and this creates this little bulk here, which is very similar to a chain. And then you yarn over again and pull through the 3 loops on the hook. Then we make the next one, so you yarn over, then we are going in that same stitch again. Make sure to go through both of the loops here on the side. 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1. This again is then the stitch that we need to place our next half double crochet in there. Yarn over and pull through 2, and pull through all the loops on your hook. Then again, we need 4 of them. Here's our stitch, the front loop, and the back loop is always a bit behind. Pull it through, yarn over, pull through one loop, yarn over, and pull through the rest of the loops. And the fourth, same thing, we go through the two loops on the side. It's basically like a border. If you're familiar with Tunisian crochet, this is how the Tunisian crochet border also looks like. And again, we go through one, and then we go through two. And now, since the leaves are getting thinner towards the end, we are going to go in that border stitch right here. Grab the yarn, pull it through. You now have two. And this is basically a single crochet by then going just through two loops. And our last one, before we can then make the corner or the edge, we go into our border stitch here, the foundation stitch. You now have two loops on your hook, and you just yarn over and pull through both of them to create this arc here and to get thinner or smaller towards the end of the leaf. Then we are going to chain two, and then we go back downwards to finish the leaf, and we make the exact same stitches. So you go in that back loop here and place a slip stitch in there. Then we take the next one and have a single crochet in there. And then we should have 4 stitches left here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those are our half double crochets. And when we go back, all the stitches are regular. And when we create or when we start our leaf, they are all foundation stitches. And by going back and only going into those back loops, we also create this typical leaf part here. And like that, our first leaf is almost done. Because now I'm going to push out my loop a little bit again. I'm going into that next front bar here from the top and pull it through. I'm going to turn my work, take my loop back again and pull it through, turn the work, release it, and then I go into that next stitch, grab my loop, pull it through, and I'm good to go with my next leaf. I know this is probably super complicated, but it creates those very clean leaves, like you can see them here. I mean, you don't see any gaps. It looks very natural, and this is exactly what we want. And sometimes you have to go the extra mile to do that. But don't worry, I'm going to show you a few more leaves again. So now we are at our starting point for leaf number 2, and we start with the foundation half double crochet. So you yarn over, then you go into that next front loop here from the next single crochet, grab the yarn, pull it through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through just one of the loops to create basically our foundation here, yarn over and pull through 3 loops on the hook, then yarn over, go back into that foundation stitch, grab the front loop and grab the back loop, pull the yarn through, yarn over, go through one, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and then again yarn over, grab the foundation stitch, pull it through. You can also, if you want to, pull the foundation part a bit to the side to create a little bit of space here, and yarn over and pull through. And when I pull through, I always hold the foundation right here so that it doesn't go anywhere. Yarn over, go into that foundation stitch, pull it through, yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through all 3 of them. Now we had our 4 half double crochet foundation stitches. Then we go back into our last foundation stitch here, pull the yarn through 2 loops, then we yarn over, pull through 1, and then have a single crochet foundation stitch, and then we go back into our foundation stitch, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through both, just like a slip stitch. Then we chain 2, turn our work a little bit. Here are our back loops that we want to work in. Here's the first one, and we start backwards with a slip stitch, then go in the next one and make a single crochet, and then we have 4 stitches left to make our half double crochets all in there. 2, 3, and 4. Then I'm going to pull out my loop a little bit and release it. Go into the next stitch from the top, only in the front. Take my loop, pull it through that loop to close my leaf, and then release it again. Go in the next loop, only in the front, and pull it through to start my next leaf. Are you still with me? I hope you are. But as you can see, the leaves look super pretty. Now it looks like Easter, I know. So in case when it's Easter and you want to do something with the bunny, here you know how to do those ears. But I'm going to show you one more leaf, and then we need 15 leaves in total for this round. I'm pretty sure once you have this round, you're going to hate me. But think about what the pretty outcome will be. So we yarn over, we go into the next stitch, which is right here in the front loop only, and create our first foundation half double crochet. Here it is, the foundation, and we need 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. So now we have 4 foundation stitches right here. Then we are going back into the last one, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 1, and we have our single crochet, and then the last one is our foundation slip stitch, like this, then chain 2, and then we can go back. Watch out for that first back loop right here, slip stitch through it to the next stitch, make a single crochet, and then we have 4 more half double crochets, regular ones, all in the back loop of our foundation stitches. And this is also a very nice way to make things that go out of your pattern without like attaching them, so you can always make them in one go, just like I made those petals. And then again, to finish it, we go into the next stitch from the top in the front loop only, take the leaf, pull the loop over the hook, pull it through, turn your work again. Where's my yarn? It's here. Then go into the next stitch, pull the loop around it, and pull it through to start your next leaf. Now we have 3. Now it looks like a crown, from a bunny to a crown. So when I see you again, we will have 15 leaves for our sunflower. Have fun and don't cry. And I'll see you again once you have them. So now I made 15 leaves for our sunflower granny square. Here's how it looks like. It always curls up a little bit, but that is completely fine. We are anyway now going to work into the back loop, so once we're done with that, it basically looks like a sunflower at the end of summer. But we can fix that later on. And here's where I finished. The only thing left now is to go in that last stitch from our round and push the loop to the back like this. And now we can start working in our back loops, basically all around here. And what we do here for this somehow in between round, because now we want to increase our circle to add another round of petals around it, is that we are going to make half double crochets, and we are going to make increases as well. We are going to increase every third half double crochet with a fourth one. And first we're going to go into that next space right here. Or maybe we can even take a back loop earlier. So just that we are in there, and now we are going out a little bit and make our first half double crochet in the same stitch, like this. Then we go into the next stitch, half double crochet, and then we have the third stitch, and here we are going to make our increase. So we make a half double crochet first, and then we make a second half double crochet into that same stitch. And then we can continue with one half double crochet in the next stitch, then another half double crochet in the next stitch, and then we are already at our next increase. So in the next stitch, we make 2 half double crochets. And we do this all the way until we have 60 half double crochets all around before we can then continue with our next round of petals. And I see you once you made your 60 half double crochets. Alright, so I made my 60 half double crochets. And this is where I meant it looks like a sunflower after the summer. The blossom closed, basically, but like that it's also easier to see where we are going. So now we can start with our next round of petals. And we do it the exact same way. We are just going to work into the front loops. And first we are going to slip stitch into that very first loop. Like that. And then we start again with our foundation stitches, a half double crochet foundation stitch. Instead of doing 4 like we did in the first round of petals, we are just doing 3. The top part of the petal is the same, and we do this all the way around. So again, I'm going to show you. You go from that stitch where we place the slip stitch into the next stitch. You pull the yarn through one loop and then yarn over and pull through the 3 loops on your hook. Again, you yarn over, you go into that foundation stitch, pull the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and one last half double foundation stitch. So we have 3, and the rest is the same. We make a single crochet foundation stitch and a foundation slip stitch. Then we chain 2 and we slip stitch into that same slip stitch from the other side. Then a single crochet and then 3 half double crochets, all in the back loops to create that typical leaf line in the center, and then pull the loop out a little bit, go into the next stitch from the top, grab the loop, pull it through, leave the loop alone, go into the next stitch from the front, pull it through, and you're good to go to start with the next petal. Again, yarn over, go into the next stitch, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, and pull through the 3 remaining loops on your hook, yarn over again, go into that foundation stitch, 2 of those loops over your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through all 3 of them, and 1 more. And then we can continue with the single crochet foundation stitch. and the foundation slip stitch, chain 2, go into that slip stitch backside, make another slip stitch, go into the back loops of the foundation stitches and start with a single crochet, and then you have 3 back loops left for the next 3 half double crochets. Like this. Pull the loop out a little bit, go into that next stitch, turn your work, pull the loop through, turn your work again, go in the next stitch from the bottom to the top, grab the loop, pull it through, and continue with the next leaf. And with that, I also leave you, because we are going to make leaves all the way through, 20 in total. You must think I'm crazy, and you're absolutely right. And with a little bit of patience, and now you know how to make those leaves in one go. I'm sure you can make it. Just take your time, and I will meet you once you have all the 20, because then we can start the next chapter, which is then going from the circle to the granny square, which is quite simple, just a little bit of counting, but not as complicated as those beautiful sunflower leaves. But first, we have to make how many? 17 more of those to complete the round. And I'll meet you there. In a little bit. Bye. Welcome back, and congrats to all of you who were able to make 35 leaves of our 3D sunflower granny square. Now it looks like this, even more like a sunflower at the end of summer. But don't worry, we are going to unfold all the leaves once we made the square part. And this is what's coming next. So before we move on with the square part, I have this last loop that I'm going to get to the back, just like we did it before. I'm just going to pull that through, and I'm also going to make a slip stitch just to hold everything. I'm going to make another slip stitch, and then we can cut the yarn. And I'm going to simply pull that through and tighten the knot up, because now what we're going to do is to start with the light blue, and also we go from the circle to the square, and we are only going to work in those back loops. Here you can see them, or here. So the last round of leaves we made in the front loops, and now we go in the back loops only, all around, all 60 of them. So I'm going to take my next color, which is the lighter blue, and I'm going into that very first back loop that I see, and I'm also going to incorporate that yarn end, because this round basically isn't visible in the end. It's like all in here. You can see it, but it's later on covered by the leaves. So if you want somewhere to mess up, here's where you can do it. And I'm going to take my next color, and I'm just going to place it over my hook, and then through that back loop, that first one that I picked, I'm going to take my yarn end and put it in front of me together with the yellow one. And I'm first going to just slip stitch that I'm in there. I'm going to tighten up the yarn ends a little bit. And then we start with a fake double crochet, because we're actually starting with a corner. So we go back into that same back loop, grab the yarn, pull it through, and make a single crochet. And then we go back into that first, or in that front loop, yarn over, go through, and yarn over again and pull through two. And here we have our fake double crochet. Then we go into the next stitch, or into the next back loop, which is right here, and we are going to make a double crochet in there, like this. Then in the next loop, we are going to make a half double crochet. And again, with my yarn ends over my crochet hook, I can incorporate the yarn into my work. So this was the half double crochet. Then I'm going to chain one, and I'm also going to skip one of the back loops. So I'm going to the second one from my hook basically, and I'm going to start my next sort of cluster with another half double crochet in there, like this. We carry the yarn with us just a little bit more. Then in the next stitch, I'm going to make a single crochet. So you go in, grab the yarn, pull it through, and yarn over and pull through both of the loops. And in the next stitch, we make another single crochet, like this. And then what we did here, we are going to repeat in the same way or in the reverse way until we reach our starting point again. So first we make a chain one, then we skip the next back loop, and then we start, here we ended with a single crochet, and now we start with a single crochet into the next. Then in the next stitch, another single crochet. And after that, just like we started here on this little cluster, with a half double crochet. Then again, chain one. Then we start our last cluster with a half double crochet, where we are going to skip one back loop. So whenever we chain, we also skip one of the back loops as well. And then we make 2 double crochets. The first one. And the next one. And now we're at the corner. We chain 2 as if we would do a normal corner for our granny squares, and then we make our next segment here, and it now comes the same like we did it here. So we start with a double crochet, and we won't skip a back loop here. So whenever we have a corner, we don't skip one of the back loops. Double crochet, then in the next stitch we make another double crochet. Now it gets a bit tricky with the yarn ends, but 2 more stitches and then I'm done with the yarn ends for sure. Second double crochet, and to finish that cluster off, we make a half double crochet in the next back loop. And now I'm going to cut those yarn ends because they're driving me crazy. Here we go. Then we chain 1, we skip 1, and make a half double crochet in the next back loop. And then we continue in the next stitch with a single crochet and another single crochet, and then we chain 1, skip the next back loop, and the rest is like we did it before. So we have 2 single crochets, 1 half double crochet, a chain 1, we skip 1 back loop, 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, and another double crochet in the next stitch, or in the next back loop. Then we chain 2, because we're at the corner. We don't skip the back loops, and we go directly into the next with our next double crochet, followed by another double crochet, and then a half double crochet. We chain 1, we skip 1 back loop, and we make another half double crochet. And then we continue with the single crochets, 2 of them first, then chain 1, skip 1 back loop, and the next 2 single crochets, all in those back loops. We make a half double crochet, we chain 1, make another half double crochet in the second back loop, then we make a double crochet and the next double crochet, and then we chain 2 and continue with double crochet, double crochet, and half double crochet, chain 1, skip 1 back loop, and half double crochet in the next, and then single crochets, chain 1, skip 1 back loop, and single crochet, single crochet, half double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, half double crochet, double, and double, and now we can connect, and we do this by a half double crochet into the top of our fake double crochet, which is right here. So you yarn over, go into that stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. And now when you turn your work, you created the square shape. It's not 100% square yet, because of course we had the circle in the center, but with the next round it's going to be more and more of a square. And as you can see here, I had a few rounds, 3 in total, before we then move on with the darker blue. But let's just continue from here. And to do that, we start again with our fake double crochet. And then we work our typical granny clusters of 3 double crochets into each of the spaces. That's also why we made those chains in the previous round, because now we can easily detect where we have to place our next cluster in. You don't chain in between the clusters, you just move on to the next space and work your 3 double crochets in there all the way through. Where's our next cluster? It's right here. I messed up with the yarn. Now I messed up again. And here we go. Then looking for our next space here, 3 double crochets. And we're at the corner, 3 double crochets. Chain 2, every time we're at the corner we chain 2, and then go back into the same corner space and make 2 more. There are days when the yarn is driving me absolutely crazy, and today's one of them. And 1 more. And then we can go into the next chain 1 space from the previous round and work our typical granny clusters in there. And this is how we continue until we have made 3 rounds with this bluish color or the light blue color. And now we are like 1.5 through. And I'll meet you when we are about to change the color to the darker blue and then finish it off. And then comes the big moment where we are going to unfold all the leaves to have our pretty 3D sunflower. And I'll meet you in a bit. Here I am, 3 rounds of the light blue. I'm just going to finish it by making a half double crochet in the corner, and then I can cut the yarn, and now I'm going to simply attach the yarn by putting it over my hook and then just simply going through the loop. And from there I can then just continue. And as always, I start with the fake double crochet in the corner before then making my clusters. Here. I leave the yarn ends behind. I'm going to sew them in later, and then just continue working the clusters in. This is our final round of granny clusters. And don't worry if your square looks a bit wonky. You can always stretch it out a little bit, because we used so much yarn with the leaves and everything. So in the end, you would have to stretch it out a little on all sides. Don't be gentle, just stretch it out so you have your square shape, which we want. And now we can continue with our granny clusters. And I'll meet you once you're at the end of this round. And then I'm going to show you how to make the border, or a very simple border with single crochets, and then finish everything off. So here we are. You can always stretch it a little bit if you need to, and now we are going to make our final round. If you want to, it's completely optional. If you want to make multiple of those 3D granny squares and then connect them, now would be the time to do so. Otherwise, you can finish it off just like I do with a simple border. And instead of going into this top loop, instead of going into this top stitch of the fake double crochet, I'm going to chain 2, just as if this is a regular corner. And then I'm going to start my single crochets in the top of the fake double crochet. And I just make a single crochet. And then I'm going to make single crochets all along into each stitch of the previous round. Just like that, all the way through. Here we go. So 3 single crochets all into that same corner space. And always watch out for the first stitch of the next side panel. It's right here, so don't miss it. And we can continue. And I'll meet you when I'm in my last corner. And then I'm going to show you how to make the invisible finish of your 3D sunflower granny square. And then we are going to take care of the very few yarn ends that are still left. And then we are going to let that sunflower blossom. See you. So this was it, my last corner, and now we can finish it off. We can cut the yarn, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through. Take your yarn needle, and then we are going to skip this next stitch here and go right into one after that. And then we go back into that last slip stitch right here, and we are going to pull everything together so that it won't show. And then we can go back in to hide the yarn end. I'm going to put all my yarn ends in the same space. Let's see if that works with everything. It does. And here we are. Cut all the yarn ends. And the squarish part is all done. Make sure to stretch it out a little bit. But as you can see, it turned out a perfect square, as always, thanks to my tutorial. So let's make this flower pop, and you just grab on those leaves from the outside to the inside. Isn't this beyond pretty? Now what I always do is to let it rest a little bit, put a book or something heavy over it, just so that the yarn and the fabric can lay down and get de-stressed from working. But I mean, it's so gorgeous. I absolutely love it. And once you have pressed everything down a little bit, you have your beautiful 3D sunflower granny square. So pretty, so huge, but that's what sunflowers are, right? And just like that, you can make yourself all the beautiful different flowers. They don't even fit all in front of my camera, but I'm just super obsessed, of course. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing how to make such a beautiful 3D granny square with the sunflower or alterations of it. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to like this video, send me a comment, tell me what you think about it, and I hope to see you back again very soon, only at the Totally Fierce Crochet channel. Bye!